I have seen your movie yesterday. Yes.
So it's fresh.
Maybe it's a little bit fresh, and I must say I'm deeply impressed. And thank you for this film. And
Thank you.
I think the film is a little bit tricky. Maybe it's the wrong word. Maybe sophisticated. Maybe is the better word. Because in the first moment, it seemed for me a little bit too shiny, too nice. The interiors and the clothing and so on. Maybe you know what I mean, and also the music, and more and more I've seen. I felt that this is the surface, yes, and this surface became more and more for me like an ice, and I could break in this ice in another dimension, yes, and that is exactly what happened with me yesterday. So, and I must say I couldn't sleep, or not so good sleep last night.
Sorry about this. That was not my intention.
Maybe. Yes, as chapeau for this work.
Merci.
And
I really like, if I can reflect on your first remark,
yes,
I
please.
really like what you said about the clothing, the music, the interiors, and I understand perfectly what you just said, and it's not defending my position at all. It's explaining that I had to make some aesthetic choices when I was dreaming this movie and when I talked about production design and music, etc. And I wanted it a little bit more glamorous or shiny or sophisticated, right? I don't know, but tricky, for multiple reasons. But I think I'm that kind of filmmaker that really cares about audience, who want to please the audience in the best way possible. And I wanted them to look, I wanted Clara to look beautiful. Clara is not beautiful in the book. She's more like average looking. She's very thin, etc. But when you make a movie, you think of beauties. And even Aldo's apartment, which the doctor's apartment in the book, it's very empty, very man looking. He got this apartment just after the war, moved in without any furniture, etc. So I insisted on not having much furniture, but for instance, on the wall, I didn't put anything. But then I saw that the empty walls look so ugly on picture. If you imagine a movie and you see a yellow or white plain wall, it's horrible. So the cameraman had the idea of the shadow of the curtain with the flowers all night, just a shadow. So at daytime, there is nothing. But at night, we have a lot of night scenes, long night scenes. There is something on the wall. So I had to be tricky, as you said. But it was an intentional sequence of intentional choices. Yes, that's it.
Yes. And it was, of course, an aesthetical decision, and connected with this are some artistic decisions, or how to say, decisions in storytelling. And this is also something under the surface, and because you are telling two tragedies in one story. Yes, you have the past and you have the present, and it's connected with each other with this slides. And I was impressed by the decision that the horrible past of Aldo got no flashbacks, for example. Yes, and so you are hiding many things, and we stay as a spectator. The spectator stays in the presence, yes, and only with some photographs and some rememberings, you are going into the past, and also the current situation of Hungary in 1948, as the film starts. You know, this is a very important year in the whole East Bloc, because the Stalinism was manifested in that time. And also the political restriction in that time is it's in the background. It's not, your story is not focused on that topic. So you have no the thriller elements, for example, and for example, with the secret police, that line, yes, it's in the background, but it works in the background. It's your story never becomes a normal Cold War film.
Yes, I wanted to leave out these very specific events and names out of out of the flats, out of the apartment. You know, even things that happen on the streets or in the political level or in historical level, they just barely touched by one radio announce and maybe one newspaper, and that's all. Yeah. I wanted to focus on really the psychological aspect of these two traumatized, wonderful persons, wonderful human beings, and even, as you said, the secret police is just shadows through this glass window at night. We've seen this is an adaptation of a book. It's a novel. So at the back cover of this novel, the writer, that lady, her name is Zsuzsa F. Várkonyi, she writes that she wanted to focus on the positive side of human beings and not on the terror and the horror. We've seen so many times already on screen, you know, the camps, the trains, the prisoners, secret police. You've seen it so many times. And finally, there is a story where you can allow yourself to dream like in a fairy tale. And the last thing is that the title of that book is not Those Who Remained. It's a girl's book of a man's time, and I wanted to focus on the girl book and not the man time, actually. And flashback, talking about flashbacks, for Aldo I wanted to leave out because it's so horrible that I left it on this family album effect, which is a surprise for Clara, obviously, and for us as well a little bit, that he had two little boys. And for Clara, she has, because Aldo says at one point that he does not dream with them anymore. They are everywhere for him, his ex-family. But Clara, she dreams with them, she thinks of them, and her flashbacks, there are like 2 or 3 small short flashbacks for her, but they are all positive, like this defending mother, this little sister, positive.
Or in the bathroom, for example.
Yes, positive. That girl is played by my daughter. Actually, I wanted to mention this personal another trick. So yes, so talking seriously, yes. So I didn't want to show the ghettos for her. She could remember horrible things, but it's, you know, we had enough of this for the moment.
Yes, I understand it very well, and I think the main decision was to tell the inner conflict and not the suspense things and the normal things of a thriller. Yes. So.
Yes, and for this thriller aspect, I think that as this communist paranoia is growing in Hungary, their relation is changing as well, and it's perfect to having a 42, 43-year-old man and this 16, 17-year-old girl living together. It's a completely innocent relationship, but still, you know, and with the eyes of this system, it's a perfect target for these two story lines could you know really link in this in what you've seen, especially the second part of the movie.
I like, for example, very much with this scene with the character played by Lukács Andor,
Yes.
the colleague who coming to him, and I joined the party, yes, and I have to write reports. So in this short scene, everything is in, yes. It's not necessary anymore to tell other things. And I was remembered as I've seen your film on 2 other Hungarian films. The first is mentioned in the end credits, Somewhere in Europe, yes.
Ah, yes, yes,
By
yes.
Geza von Radvani. Yes.
Again, phone. You said phone. It's so nice. We don't say phone, but I understand why. I know his life. So yes, yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Very nice.
And I have seen the film by accident 3 weeks ago. So the
Really?
restored version. You know, there is
What
a new version.
I didn't know
Um,
that, but what a
yeah,
coincidence. It's beautiful.
and I have seen it 30 years ago, and now again, and I was totally touched, because this is one of the very first films of this post-catastrophe aspect of World War II and Holocaust. Yes, it's maybe the first at all. Yes, and
Probably.
and the figure, the character of the old man who is guiding the boys, one girl, lots of boys, into the future. It's, of course, it's relative. It's related to Aldo, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That's the film that they watch in the cinemas. And also, I didn't only choose that one because it perfectly fitted the date of release, perfectly fitted my storyline. But just as you say, yes, saving children, orphan children, gathering them in this castle and being under the menace of society and
Yeah.
military services and etc. Yes, yes. Beautiful,
Yes,
wonderful movie.
yes, it's a sensation. And the second film I was remembered is The Fifth Seal by Fabri Zoltan.
Oh, this is my really number 1 favorite Hungarian
Really?
movie.
Yes,
Yes,
I
yes.
love it very much. And so I had the idea, maybe the girl Clara, you know the story of the Fifth Seal. Maybe she was saved by the main character.
Again, you see, it's completely,
Maybe.
I
Yeah.
didn't think of it, but the end, I don't want to spoil to anyone if any viewer watches our conversation. Fifth Seal, really wonderful movie by Zoltán Fabri,
Yeah.
and I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's again the same thematic, exactly. That man with the
Yes, with
Jurica
his
Ur,
secret.
his name.
He got a secret, and he
Exactly.
have to keep it until the very bitter end.
Exactly. Beautiful story. Yes, he's Fabri Zoltán. I like all of his films. I think he was the greatest, along with István Szabó. He was the greatest for the 20th
Yes,
century for Hungarian
absolutely,
cinema.
absolutely.
Great storyteller, great humanistic person. Always had this human touch with the stories, with this touching. Either the ending, either the whole story is so human, full of humanity. And
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
And if we have a look at the current filmmaking in Hungary, so we had 2 other films about this period, more or less. Schaufia, the son of Shaul, and 1945.
Okay.
So and
Sure.
I think it's interesting that each of these films have a completely different kind of storytelling and also a completely different aesthetic style.
Exactly.
So.
Although I have to mention that all 3 films have been designed production-wise by the same person, László
Okay.
Rajk.
Okay.
Yes, Son of Soul, 1945, and Those Who Remained. László Rajk, unfortunately, he passed away last year, but he's a very important figure. I must say, in Hungarian culture, he's also an architect. He's been an architect, and he was the son of another László Rajk, so he's László Rajk Jr. László Rajk, his father was executed by the communists in 48, I believe, or 49. The whole trial was set up. He was a communist as well, but he did this fake trial as everything was staged. So he was executed when the junior László was 1 year old only. So he was undercover under the name of Istvan Kovács, which is like John Smith, in an orphanage. He met his mother when he was 6. So he started his life like this, and then he became an opponent, a big figure of the Hungarian opposition in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
He had this, samizdat printing office and everything. And then he became an architect after the changes. And now, because he never changed to be a liberal, he was an opponent to Orban. So he had to shut down his architect office because he didn't get any new jobs after 2010.
Yeah.
So he became a production designer, definitely. I mean, that was his main job for the last years. So he's a very special person for Hungarian history.
This is very interesting information. Thanks.
And in the book, which is funny, in the book that I adopted, The Girl's Book of Mentime, at one point, Clara asks Aldo, she's combing herself on the mirror, and she says, Aldo, was Laszlo Rajk Jewish? And then, Clara, how did you hear it? Oh, at the school, they just told us that he was executed. There was this news in the school. So even it's so implemented in Hungarian mind, and this case, because he was a symbol of this communist terror and regime. He's a martyrness. So
yes. Yeah.
I didn't put it in the movie because it was too, as I said, it was too specifically Hungarian.
Yes. Yeah. And the book is also published in German.
It is the only language that it was printed and published in. Yes.
But I didn't read it. Yes. You talked about this topic by yourself right now. That's why I can ask you about the current situation in Hungary. In the public travel, there have been posters, very strange posters with "Should he laugh at last?" You know what I mean? About Soros, the Soros campaign.
Oh, yeah.
And something like this.
But what was written? I didn't understand. What was the line?
Do you want that Soros is the last who will laugh?
Yes, again. Yes, I understand. Yes. No, this is so.
Yes,
it's so
horrible.
sad. Yeah, it's cheap. It's a cheap deductism. Populism. That. Trump is in a way the same. Putin is the same. Erdogan is the same. We have our small version of this. It's a small country. Thank God it's a small country, because he's a very talented and very wise man. Unlike Trump, Orban is really wise and really curious, and he reads a lot, and he's not dumb at all. He knows perfectly how to manipulate people, and he has as long as he has 50% of the voters, he has
let's knock on wood that will be a change sometime. But you could make this.
The saddest part is it's a democracy here in Hungary. Democratic elections every 4 years. So I cannot say it's dictatorship. I just cannot. It's a perfect marketing. Perfect marketing.
Yes.
Sorry.
You also will survive this.
Yes.
I'm sure about it. And you could make this film, and the film is in the world, and this is very important.
Yes.
One question about the Germans in the film. Because the Germans are only about the culture in it. Yes, but Thomas Mann is mentioned.
Of course.
You see the
of course, the Jewish intellectuals. I mean, the German culture was the dominating culture in Hungary until the Second World War. I mean, reading Goethe or Thomas Mann or Heidegger or any philosopher. Every Jewish person who was in it, everybody spoke German. German was the second language before the dominance of English. And they were, people just couldn't believe, I won't say anything new to you, but people, even on the trains, they were convincing each other that, the Germans would never be able to do such things. Yeah. Come on, this is the highest culture in the world. So Clara is obviously under the influence and the effect of the evident genius of Thomas Mann, for instance, but he could mention, other people, no problem.
So yes, we so often have seen, of course, the barking dogs and the uniforms and so on, and there's nothing in your film from this aspect. So of course, it's also in the mind. It works in a second shift. Yes. So I think it's a good decision because it's not so important to show it again and again. It's a big problem to find perspectives and pictures which are not totally used.
And that was the genius idea of the Son of Shaul, aesthetic solution. It was so great. And also now I'm one of my film projects is about 56, the revolution of 56.
Yeah.
Again, something special and different and more specific, but I have the same problem, how not to show the same things again, the tanks, even the clothes, even the costume, I've seen this costume, I've seen every second Hungarian movie is about 56. So how to show it in a different way, but it's a great challenge. When you have a problem like this, it's always inspiring. It's always inspiring to find a solution to something. It's like the budget. If you have a small budget, you have to be wise, and it's a great inspiration to be creative.
Yes. About 1956, and talking about the last scene. After we have a time jump of 3 years, and this is a very important date. The 5th of March, 1953. So and this birthday party of the aunt, yes, and it's like the end of a fairy tale, yes. But I liked it very much because, all by the reasons I told you already, but also by the fact everybody seems to be happy, yes, and the party is very relaxed and shiny again, and we are celebrating the birthday, except Aldo, yes. He's not really part of the party. He stands beside, and this little detail, let's drink to who cannot be here, yes. And they have the palinka or something like this, and drinking, but not the hero of the film. He has no class, or did I fail?
So Aldo's sadness for me, and then again, I'm open to any kind of, I didn't want to leave everything very obvious at the ending. I didn't want to say out everything loud, but his deep sadness, I think in a way his feelings might have changed a bit towards Clara. So I'm open to a kind of interpretation of the story that he fell in love in a way, in even a forbidden way, but deeply closed inside him for Clara. He had this melancholic feeling because it's a grown-up woman now, and she meant everything to him. For a long time, only a stepdaughter, then a friend, then a therapist, and then this beautiful lady who found a boyfriend and then flew away. And for him, that's kind of end of his life in a way. I mean, I don't think he's really madly in love with that new woman he chose. I think Aldo called this woman, this patient of his, just to for Clara to be safe, to be free, and to It was a sacrifice. That's the key word. It's a sacrifice from his part. Yes. So I think it's heartbreaking what happens to him, and that's it. That's kind of his sadness, despite the general positive.
But by the other hand, he's getting into he's becoming a little bit a figure like an angel, like a guardian angel. So
sure, that's great.
Yes, he's not more from this earth. So something like this. So.
Yes, exactly. He's like a hero. He's like an angel. He's so nice, so positive. In the novel, you can read about. In the novel goes until 67, so it's much longer, and we can follow their story. And he's always protecting and always. And Clara means everything to him for the rest of his life.
And also again to the last scene, I liked the end by another aspect because. It's 1953, and they are so optimistic. Everything will be changed now. Now we will be free, and we can do everything. We can travel, and so on. But we as spectators, we know what will happen 3 years later, in 1956. So it's the next tragedy is already built in your story without telling it. And maybe it's a cliffhanger to your next film.
Yes, some people told me to make a sequel and to see what happened to these characters in 56. It's in the book, but it's not that interesting. Even the writer admits that the last chapter, it's 5 chapters, and she says that the last chapter is not very good. So I was wise enough to end the film at the 4th chapter. You know, it's too fast and things are happening too fast. So this intimate, nice chamber drama is over, and history takes over the story. So, yeah, I mean, we are always optimistic. I mean, think about 89, Hungary. We were the hope of the collapse of Berlin Wall and, you know, the Visegrad countries, Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, so great cultures, so great philosophers, intellectuals, you know, finally Europe united, and now we are the bad guys, and it's a shame. We are sorry.
Yes, for us, I raised up in East Germany, you know, and for me, Hungary was the freedom, and Budapest was the replacement of Paris, of course. And
for us, it was Yugoslavia. It was Yugoslavia, the Croatian coast. It was the freedom, and it was still a socialist country. But everything is relative, you know.
Yes, as it seems, yes. So everything's changed, but it will come back. Become better.
I hope so. I hope so.
So maybe let's continue our talk in Berlin. Yes. And thanks for this conversation.
Thanks, Klaus, very much. I enjoyed it, and see you. So hope in September.
And have a nice holiday with your family. Yes.
Thanks. You too. Bye. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.